guys, it's the boy Jeameave back in Reviews from the Heart. If you're new to the channel and enjoy what you're seeing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to support your boy. With that being said, I have a 2019 Infiniti Q50S Red Sport courtesy of Infiniti South Bay right here in Torrance, California. Once again, thank you so much to my guy Luis and my guy Mark for this wonderful opportunity. Now, my faith viewers may recall the fact that I did a Q60s Red Sport back in September-ish, and the main difference being between that specific Q60 and this specific Q50 that I'm about to test drive is the fact that this Q50 does not have the direct adaptive steering or the fly-by-wire steering that I experienced in the Q60 and that I was extremely critical of when I drove the Q60 through the canyons. The reason being is I wanted to see if Infiniti still has something comparable to a G within its current lineup in terms of handling feel and providing something fun to drive in anything other than a straight line, in my personal opinion. The Q60s Red Sport and the Q50S Red Sport share the same exact engine, the VR30, the twin-turbocharged V6, the baby brother of the GTR VR38 engine, pushing 400 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. So with that being said, I'm eager to see if the lack of the higher optioned-up trim steering within the Q60 that I previously drove has been rectified with this Q50 and brought back more spirited, more fun driving dynamic feel in this Q50 that I'm about to drive. So without further ado, let's take this bad for a trim and see my thoughts on what this vehicle is all about. Thank you so much. Let's go and take this drive. So what's this like driving a 2019 Infiniti Q50S Red Sport? My faithful viewers may know that I've done a Q60 Red Sport courtesy of Infiniti South Bay and my guy Mark. And shout out to my guy Will, because he was who I did the Q60S Red Sport with. And the major difference in why I wanted to do a Q50 Red Sport is the fact that the Q60 had something called direct adaptive steering. Basically, fly-by-wire steering was something that I was very ardent and critical on when first driving through the canyons. If you guys remember, I took it through some curvy roads, and it was very lackluster in terms of driving feel, and it just overall wasn't fun for that sort of driving oriented fun. It was a great cruiser, very comfortable, very stout engine, very fast courtesy of the 3-liter twin-turbocharged V6 pushing 400 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. Same engine is in here, but the key difference in this one is that this does not have the directive fly-by-wire, directive adaptive steering, whatever you want to call it. This has something called speed assisted steering, speed variable steering, something along that nature. But basically it is not the same steering as the Q60 that I drove. So essentially this should provide, at least in theory anyway, a better driving dynamic experience, and hopefully something that I can be more appreciative of when it comes to driving spiritedly and just overall having more fun. But apart from that, the interior still stands as of pretty good quality. It is comfortable. The sound deadening is great in here. About to make a left right now, and let's show you guys what exactly this Q50 is all about. So, shut up for a moment. Taking it down some curvy roads. And I do have it in Sport Plus mode. Remember, I drive all the vehicles that I do a review on, if applicable, in the highest sports setting. This is where we will drive, and it is also made it to a 7-speed shiftable automatic. Now, so far, the steering is heavier than what I can recall from the Q60, but it's still vague. It's better, but not by much, not by a degree to where I could say that I would love driving this every day for the type of driving that I personally do, you know, on like a Sunday fun day type thing. But it is very stout and it is very fast, but overall it's just not the most confidence inspiring. And I apologize if I'm scaring you. Saw your hand. Overall, it's just not the most confidence inspiring steering that I personally have felt for a more performance oriented car. Now, like I said, obviously this is not really a sports car, but it does have Red Sport and a twin turbocharged V6, the little brother of the GTR engine. This does have the VR30 as opposed to the VR38. This is literally a derivative of the GTR engine. And the fun has now come to a slight omission. But overall, I mean, Infiniti, you need to get it together. You need to bring out a pure performance-oriented car and not something that just has a namesake for it. It's marginally better than what I've experienced and what I can recall from the Q60S. I was expecting something, at least in the namesake of it, the fact that it lacks the direct adaptive steering, something that just felt a little bit more natural. This still feels artificial, it still feels vague. Not as vague as the Q60, but it's still something of note. If you're looking for something that drives fun, that is fun to drive. And you know, some people can argue that it's more fun to drive a slower car fast than to drive a fast car fast. And the reason behind that is because if you have an extremely fast car, and especially if you live where I live in Los Angeles, California, if you drive a fast car fast, you mash the pedal, within 3 seconds you're at ticket speeds. So realistically speaking, if you have a slow car, you can experience it just a little bit more, roar it through the gears, and overall just enjoy it a little bit more. But I'm gonna put it in manual mode and see just how responsive the transmission is. Let me see here. Little body roll. But again, this is a sedan. Okay, so the 7-speed transmission, I am impressed by it. It is very snappy. It does make it for a little bit more of an enjoyable experience so far. Let me see, put it back down to third. So in 6,000, shift, and shift again. So it's a very snappy car when it comes to the transmission. It's a great car for everything other than that sort of driving. If you're trying to take this through the canyons and do anything that involves sort of like motocross sports, motorsports, anything like that, you'd have to be really, really used to this car and its driving dynamics to be able to get the best out of it. And unfortunately, I am personally not that used to this car to where I feel comfortable, especially with having another life in my hands, to push this car anywhere near that I would push my own personal car, because I'm just not used to it. And I personally don't see how one can be comfortable in doing so with this sort of car, because literally the response is just negligible when it comes to road feel. But that's not even full throttle, but I'll give a little, that felt really good. See, the thing with this car is the power plant is not the issue. It's the steering feel, and that's just disconcerting to me because it's a great engine. This feels very fast and underrated. I would say this is probably, it says it's rated at 400 horsepower. This definitely feels more like 380 to 400 wheel horsepower, meaning that it's probably pushing around 440 horsepower. That's what it personally feels like to me, to my butt dyno. I could be wrong, but it definitely feels faster than just a measly 400 horsepower. And I guess you can accredit that to a story my friend Will here, sorry, I called you Will. My bro Mark here was telling me how he was having some spirited driving with a Q60, was it a Q60 or Q50 Red Sport?
Q60 Red Sport.
But it doesn't matter, it's the same engine. And it was against a Lexus RC350, which is supposed to be around 300, 350 horsepower, if I can recall correctly off the top of my head. Granted, it is a naturally aspirated V6 in the Lexus RC. Well, Mark, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Mark, can you please remind the viewers how destroyed you were, or your friend was, in the Lexus RC?
I was in the Lexus C350. My friend was in the Q60, and full throttle, pedal to the floor, got demolished. There was no competition. He was spaces ahead of me.
So that just goes to show you that although the Lexus RC is obviously not the fastest car either, it's also not the slowest vehicle. And I'm just trying to avoid some traffic here. And this definitely feels like an underrated engine. This is not the crux of this vehicle or the Red Sports as how they are personally equipped right now. And I've driving this and saying this with the knowledge that I've experienced both steering ratios, both steering technology, because again, I'm going to reiterate, this does not have the direct adaptive fly-by-wire steering that I experienced in the Q60. It feels more compliant and just a nudge better when it comes to spirited driving, but it's not where it should be for any sort of performance car. And I swear, Infiniti, if you bring out a performance-oriented vehicle and you put this steering in there, it will fail miserably, just like the IPO did in the G37. That was horrible. Why would you bring out a performance car like that and try to compete with an M3 and you kept the same naturally aspirated VR37? That makes absolutely no sense. I hope you guys learned from that mistake, because that was a horrible business decision. You don't bring out a performance-oriented car and expect it to compete with something that has 400 plus horsepower and keep the same engine as the same model that it's based upon. Just learn it from BMW. That's why M's have their own specific M-oriented engines. Not the same engine that's in a 335 or a 328. They have their M engine. And Infiniti should follow suit if they ever plan on bringing out a performance-oriented car, because I guarantee you, there is a market out there. People want something that is reliable. And from my understanding, the G's have been very reliable for a lot of people, especially compared to its German counterparts. And as far as I'm aware, Infiniti is the only real Japanese automaker currently, off the top of my head, that is providing more performance than your usual Lexus equivalent or any of its other contemporaries. So in my mind, if I'm looking at a Japanese-based performance car, I honestly cannot tell you which one to get that is comparable to its German equivalents, other than the fact that you're looking at something to be more reliable, or expected to be more reliable anyway. So with that being said, this was more of a, hopefully a enlightening experience. And unfortunately, it's not necessarily the case, because the steering is just marginally better in my personal opinion. Again, this is not what this car is made for, but just what made BMW and a lot of other German automakers into what it is today is the fact that it offers something just because it's already there, not necessarily because that's what it was. And I thought that would have been something similar, considering the fact that it has two separate types of steering systems. And I thought just maybe Infiniti still had its bread and butter by offering a comparable performance vehicle with more reliability than its German counterparts. And like I said, don't get me wrong, the engine is great, the transmission is snappy, it's very responsive, but this steering, man, I tell you, comfortable, long distance cruiser, family oriented, you know, got some space in here. That's not the most spacious, you know, for a tall family, but you know, it's bigger than the Q60. You know, it does have 4 doors and things of that nature. So again, I'm gonna reiterate, is this a quick car? I'm not gonna necessarily say fast, because I've driven a fast car before in terms of the Z06, so I'm it's a very quick car, and to some people it will be fast, but to me, considering what I've driven before, it's a very adequate speed, it's a very good speed, and it's a type of speed that is more than enough for, especially for the average buyer. And any person looking for a Red Sport knows that, or at least should know anyway, that this is not slow by any means. And once again, this is courtesy of South Bay Infiniti. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to hit up my guy Mark. Mark, where can the people watching reach you at if they have any questions or are looking for an Infiniti themselves?
So yeah, you can reach me at 213-915-7881, or if you're in the area, you want to stop by Infiniti of South Bay, we're located at 2900 Pacific Coast Highway. That is in the city of Torrance. Right here, people.
So I'm gonna leave you with one more pull, possibly, depending on how the traffic is. And it is a fun car in a straight line. It is not a car made for canyon driving.
That's one of my manager's cars. I wouldn't do a full pull.
Okay, never mind.
See the Infiniti of South Bay right there?
I guess we'll we've had our fun.
Pull up next to him.
Oh, I know exactly. Just see me from here. So with that being said, this is your boy Jeameave, ViewsFromTheHeart. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember, this is still a great car for everything other than sporty driving. Don't think that what I'm saying is being overly critical. I just was expecting something a little bit different, considering the fact that it does not have the same steering as what I experienced in the Q60. overall, this is still a great car for everything other than sporty, fun driving. In my personal opinion, this is still a great car, and it can be a very fast car. This is very tunable. It is twin turbocharged. There's more positives than negatives in this car, in my personal opinion. And Mark, what could one out the door realistically look to spend for something like this?
About upper 40s, 48, 47, somewhere around there.
And with that being said, I think that is a pretty compelling package for something that feels this comfortable and this speedy. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I appreciate you guys so much. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button because there's a lot more content coming your way. Thank you once again, and I'm out.